Yeah. My first job was at a country club, and so I worked around grown men, and I started paying attention to what they said and how they did things, and always asked questions. But uh, I had an inkling of how life is because they would tell you stuff just like the old folks, and they're ancient truths. Okay. Uh, I remember becoming aware of what I say and how the effect of what I say can have, what effect it can have on my life. One day we were coming up to New Year's Eve, and so every New Year's Eve we would have to work because the club, the members, they're gonna have a New Year's Eve party. Well, I told them, hey, I ain't working. I'm gonna be sick because at 16, 17, this was back in the 60s, we would rent hotel suites. I mean, the Marriott, the Sheraton, the Hilton. We were big time, okay? And we would rent suites. I don't know how we got away with it, but we did. And I said, I'm gonna be sick. I'm not working New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve came. I went to the party, went to the hotel. I was sick as a dog. I'm going, okay, Herbert, you got to be careful what you say.
Right. It's true.
When I was in Germany, in the army, I didn't like it. And my warrant officer told me, he said, Herbert, you can live in hell for 6 months if, if you know it for 6 months. So I started to pick up on principles, and not give in to my feelings.
Right.
So, and since then, it's been one after another. And so finally, because it's not an overnight thing, finally I got to the point where I'm going, okay, I need to listen at this stuff. And if you go back to what the old folks would say, they would tell you stuff. And so uh, we just blow it off because that's an old man or old woman talking. But it's a lot of truths in those. Mr. DeWright, how you doing?
I'm well. Thanks for allowing me on.
Yes, sir. I apologize for the confusion, but that's okay. All
No
things,
problem.
everything works out the way it's supposed to work out.
Yes, sir.
Brother Thomas, I'm gonna steal your background. I want to be on top of the world too. Go ahead.
All is well, Grant. How about yourself?
Life is good. Life is good. We're gonna get a little
Fantastic.
deeper with this conversation and what has happened in the past. The last two meetings, I do record these, and so we just hold a conversation. Nobody knows everything. We all share whatever thoughts come to our mind, um, and hopefully we will glean or learn from each other. Okay. The thought behind this is that men need to collaborate with one another and make them avail themselves of wisdom and information that other men have. We don't know who have what we need. We don't know what we have that somebody else will need. And if we're exchanging it, we all wind up being a little bit better. So we started off talking about belief, and I think we should delve into that a little more because our whole world depends on our mindset. And our belief tends to be tied to our doctrine for life. In other words, uh, I don't think, and you all tell me, I don't think man should vacillate back and forth. I think men should make decisions and then make those decisions right. Now, how do you make a decision right, even if it turns out to be the wrong decision? I'm gonna listen.
I always thought you make that decision and you go as far as you possibly can, as good as you possibly can. And if you commit to that decision and then you find out that that decision is wrong, at that time, you change.
Okay.
That's what I've always thought. But you can't go into the decision thinking I'm gonna fail. Because if you do, then you already failed before you ever start.
Okay, who are you?
I'm Melvin Jones.
And tell us a little bit more.
From Houston, Texas. Went to the University of Houston. I played football there, played at the Washington Redskins. I'm a father, 68 years old.
Yes, sir.
A grandfather and a husband.
Okay, let me send it to you again. No, 8:30 in the morning. That's me and you. You need to. Brother Dwight, talk to us. Tell us who you are.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Dwight Sankey. I'm from Los Angeles, California. I've subscribed to the website, or I should say the YouTube site. I've ordered Brother Ware's books. They're very interesting and informative. And I saw the advertisement for the Wisdom Wednesday and requested to be added. And it's a pleasure to be here. I'm 51 years old. I'm a father of two. I'm married. And to kind of go along with the question that you asked, how do we make good decisions? I came in on the tail end of the earlier conversation. I would say obtaining insight from people who've been on that path before and not recreating the wheel or recreating a scenario. Taking information from people who have your best interests at heart and are going to give you good information. So that's a little bit about myself and my response to your question.
Okay. Brother Thomas, introduce yourself, please, sir.
All right, greetings, brothers. I'm Brother Derek Thomas, a father of four, a husband of one, and a voice for many. I agree with everything you brothers just said, and I'll pass it on.
All right. Brother Walker from Georgia.
I'm Gennaro Walker from Thomaston, Georgia. I am a member of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity, where I pledged at the University of Georgia. And I don't have any children, and I'm not married. I'm 37 years of age. My birthday is actually July 4th. The topic draws me to the scripture where Christ tells us to stay on the straight and narrow because wide is the path that leads to destruction. So I feel like it's nothing wrong with following our peers, but sometimes if we're confused, I feel it's great to go to the good book and get the guidance that we need and try to be as Christ-like as possible.
Okay. Brother Thompson, how you doing, man? You recuperated?
No, sir, but I'm here. Should I was asleep, to be honest. I was asleep. And, should I saw what time it was, I jumped back on the video because I do apologize for being a little late. But I'm doing great. I'm glad to be here today with you guys. I really am. So
all right.
I'm going to talk about something I do know about, but I don't know yet. We're going to find out.
We're gonna hit all kinds of topics. But right now, this is the third week we've had this, and we started out talking about belief. Okay, we all have different beliefs. Well, I'm not gonna say we all have different beliefs, but we all have a degree of belief that we operate our lives according to. I like to call it a doctrine. And I think, again, some of you know me, you know that I believe in making a decision, sticking to that decision, and making that decision right. And my question was, how do you make a decision right, even if it's the wrong one? Okay. Brother Walker, how you doing? Brother John Walker.
Gennaro.
No, I
I'm
got a
doing-
John.
I'm doing good.
The way it was presented to me was shakers and movers make a decision, and then they make that decision right. Now, who do you know always make the best decisions or the right decision? Absolutely nobody.
Nobody.
So how do you make a decision right, even if it was the wrong decision? Simply by going to work. Well, when you kind of hit on it, if you make the decision and you start moving, then you're going to get to a point where you have to make some adjustments. But if you sit on that decision and don't do anything, then we lost. We never get anywhere. Now, Dwight said something interesting talking about making good decisions. I heard a guy tell me decades ago, he said, you always marry the wrong woman. Hopefully y'all wives are around, but you always marry the wrong woman. Now, how you figure that?
I'm waiting on you to expound on that, man.
As soon as she gives you hell, in your mind you think, hey, if I had married that other one, I wouldn't be going through this. So you married the wrong woman. But the thing is, if you had married that other one, you'd be going through something else. So you're going to go through something either way it goes.
That's right. I've been married long enough to realize that it don't matter, who you get married to. You're going to be going through something.
So the real deal is not her, is not him, your friend or whoever you think created the problem. It's us. Because
Yes.
he's in control of how we perceive something, accept something, react to something, or feel about whatever is presented to us. Who's in control of that?
Yeah, we are.
Y'all agree with that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
It's easy for me to blame Jason for something I messed up. We working together or he does something and I put the blame much on his back. But if I'm going to be the leader, and we're supposed to be the leaders of our households, right? Do we get the credit if everything goes good?
Yep.
Do you
Not
get
really.
the blame if
Not
it's bad?
always.
What'd you say, right?
I say not always.
But who gets the blame if it goes bad?
You do, the man, typically.
It starts up top and rolls down normally.
Well,
Normally.
but who admits that? Number one, are we recognized as being the top?
That's a good question.
Now, when you marry,
Well, therein lies the problem, brother. How do we take back? Fellas, let me tell you what. Years ago, my son got married, and we told him here's the deal when you get married. Now, this is being recorded, but I'm gonna just put it out there anyway. The trick is when you get married, you're actually taking your balls and giving them to your wife. And the trick is, how long does it take you to get them back? We told him it was gonna take him about 5 to 7 years to get him back and be the man of the house. I know another young man that had to wear a peach-colored shirt. We told him it was going to take him 15 years. He's been married about 17, 18 years, okay? 19 years, and we still ain't got him back. Because she's running everything. Now, he's happy. Don't get me wrong. But, hey, if you call him and ask him something, he got to check with her first. Now, let's go back to creation. Is that in order?
No.
Yeah.
Somebody said, yeah?
Creation? You mean like the Bible?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in I mean, I would guess it's in order as far as what I read.
Is in order as far as what?
As far as what I read, it should be in order because God created man first and then created woman out of one of our ribs.
Right.
So there's a structure and thing. There's a way you should do things, and then there's a Bible verse that says, "Is if a man is following Christ, uh, a woman should treat her husband not like Jesus Christ, but like the church, pretty much."
Okay.
I have it on my phone, but there's everything in order the way it should be done with a woman and a man.
Absolutely. And you're right. However, in my example, the young man is not in charge. He's not the lead, the head. And so men are supposed to provide and protect and lead. That's what we're supposed to do. However, if you look at society today, you're out there working, fighting, struggling, and you come home and you got to struggle and fight all over again with someone who's supposed to be following you. Have you seen that?
Yeah, it actually happens all the time. What I tell people is,
Whose fault is that?
I would say, it's. I mean, you could say both because the woman is supposed to have enough. If it's a godly woman, she should know enough of the Bible verse to give her husband or fellow man respect. But it's also the man too, because if you can't get your woman in check, you can't really make nothing shake, because when you go out there to try to do good or build a business, and then you got to come back to what could I say, immature problems. I mean, you can't even really focus on anything to plant a seed to have it grow on anything, because you're arguing with your your woman every day. I mean, that's what I told my cousin. I said, look, you arguing every day. You can't even focus on what you want to do, because it's like Jerry Springer when you go back home.
Well, but how do you focus on what it is you have to do, or you are led to do, or choose to do, when you are getting resistance?
I mean, my motto is there's millions of females, if not billions. That's what I tell everybody. My nephew, he's going through it. She put a picture of this guy. Look, there's millions of females. She has your heart now, but that pain will eventually reside. I've been through it. Look, I've been through 9 years of relationships. I ain't gonna keep beating the horse. You don't want to listen and buy. Oh God. I lose 20. You can lose years of your life messing with the wrong person. Better wake up quick. I'm just saying.
Like somebody asked me, so Herbert, how long you been married? I said, I've served 15 years. Y'all will get that later.
That's the time. Yeah, that's the time.
Yeah. It's like being in prison, ain't it? So I served 15 years of a life sentence. So the whole thing about it is this. Again, women and children and employees or people working with you, we all are looking for leaders. And we all cannot be the leader, but we all are a leader in some arena or another. So how do you create that leadership fellowship? That's the question. Y'all got to talk. I mean, I know I don't have the answer. Okay.
You got good questions.
Yeah, I got damn good questions. I got damn good questions.
I would say one of the things with relationships is really knowing who you are whenever you search for a partner, but then you make sure that has qualities that are essential, like cooperation. Um, but that comes from having insight, and typically when you're in relationships, your vision isn't always clear. So a lot of those things that, insights you should have, it comes later about the person's character and even your immaturity. So I know that that's a way to address some of that, but I don't know of too many people in the Western world that has that already kind of pre-ordered, unless like you're doing now, having these conversations and get that preloaded before you venture out there. And that would reduce it. And like you say, stay on the straight path, as one of the brothers made mention. Stick to what you know is tried and true. So,
well, that's an interesting. Brother Matson, how you doing? Talk to us. Say something, and let us see your face. Stick to what's tried and true. Okay.
I think go ahead.
I was trying to hit Brother Matson here so we can see his face. I like to look at you when I talk to you. Okay, he's not going to talk.
He was having problems with his phone earlier when I was talking to him, so it's a possibility he's still having same issues.
Okay.
Or Mr. Ware, may I say something?
Go ahead.
I go back to the scriptures where it says two shall become one. And I know that creation says man was created first and the woman is intended to be the helper. But when we take those vows, we put those rings on the finger, the two are becoming one, and we must give due benevolence to one another. And
I can't see.
Give some time to rest into the scripture, but both are supposed to play their own significant role. So as a Christian male and as a female Christian, we're still supposed to live our life in a way that it doesn't detour from our marriage, but it adds to the marriage. So the same principle, continuing to let your light shine so that your Father in heaven will be glorified. Being the best that you can be. But I agree that it starts with the man as far as having his house in order, making sure the children are properly disciplined, making sure that the resources are there so that the woman can do her job as well. But every relationship is different. So there may be relationships where a woman do wear the pants, if you will. So I can't tell anyone how to live their lifestyle or their relationship, but I definitely think it starts with acknowledging that once that relationship forms, the two become one.
Well, here's the other thing too, and I don't want to just keep it to male, female, husband, and wife. You run into the same challenges on your job or in your career.
Right.
If you're the leader, how often does your decisions get challenged? And if you're not a leader, how often do you challenge the leader? Okay. So again, it all boils back to the individual and their mindset.
Right.
So yeah, we can talk all day long about male and female, husband and wife, and so forth. But again, if you're the supervisor on the job, or if you're a worker on the job and have a supervisor, again, anytime we come together, we are stronger, we're better, and we stand a better chance of success.
Right. I think it starts with humility, because if you're not humble, then people are not going to want to be under your leadership. And Jesus commanded us to love thy neighbor as you would love thyself. So I feel like a good characteristic of a good leader is someone who knows how to lead, but also treat those under him with respect and dignity, but who also has the authoritative ability to know how to take control of the guard when necessary.
Now you're getting to the real meat of the matter. Authoritative ability to be the leader, because as leaders, you're going to be challenged, right?
Right.
Now, I got a favorite phrase some of you have heard, and that is, the tail don't wag the dog. Okay. But how many organizations, how many jobs have you been on where the tail wanted to wag the dog? The employees or whatever want to put out edicts and tell everybody what to do. Tell the managers, tell the company owner what to do. Is that an example of the tail wagging the dog?
That is.
How far does that get you? And how do you prevent that? How do you prevent that?
What I would say is you just want to have a process in place to let people know, hey, I relate to your situation. Well, what I do with my two employees is, hey, where you were, I was. So it's not like, I am the owner, but it's not like I'm better than you. But, just please, follow the rules. If not, I don't want to be like, excuse my French, I don't want to be an asshole, but I'll fire you. I mean, hey, look, I relate. I did the same job. I'm not better than no one. So I understand what he's saying about being humble, because my thing is, I don't want anyone to do a job for me that I won't do myself. So I can relate to the job that you're doing. So if you're doing something, of course, the leader always has experience with it. So if you're a leader of an organization, even Masonic, you experience the walk that everyone under you has done before. So you can relate to anything that has any problems going on, but you still have to be sturdy enough to let them know, hey, you're going farther than your boundaries. If not, you know, we're gonna have a talk, and if you don't like it, then you can be replaced. So, I mean, that's I'm just saying that's how I do it. just
So,
my thought.
Interesting
You
word
know-
you mentioned, boundaries.
say that again.
He mentioned boundaries. He said he was telling the person that you're going beyond your boundaries.
Yeah,
He
so it's
also-
like, go
Go
ahead.
ahead, brother.
He also said that, he touched on something that I was going to say earlier. He leads by example. Okay, and he didn't just come out and say it plainly, but I also think he was saying that he's trying to be as fair as possible with what he's asking people to do. He's not asking anybody to do anything that he wouldn't do, couldn't do, or haven't done before.
Right.
So, and if you are going back to what we were talking about earlier, the head of a household, you have to lead by example. You have to try to be as fair as possible. And you also have to always act in love.
You can try to tell me you fair as all get out, but I want to do it my way.
You know something? Sometimes you run into that. And when that happens, you might be at a point where it's an impasse. The only thing you can do then is pray and communicate. Try to keep the communication open and try to talk it out as calmly as possible. At least that's the only thing I can think of.
I think he hit a good point on the communication. Sometimes as men, I'm not going to say feel like we're the head of the household to a point that my word is law, but I still feel like there's a lot lost when it comes to knowing your place, and I'm not saying it was barefoot and pregnant either. I'm saying that knowing your place, meaning, but if you didn't open that door for that woman, she's going to say, well, why didn't you open the door for me? That's your place to her. And vice versa. She has to know her place as well, she's in a relationship or a marriage, and I feel that we get away from that to where they talk to you just anyway. You don't get your praise as your husband or your man, and more men get complacent to that, to the point that that causes the friction, or there's like lack of, it's like the respect that they desire.
Well, the thing, and I heard something the other day, when they go to their job, talking about the wives or women, they go to their job and their boss tell them to do something, they do it. They come home, you tell them to do something, and they want to know why. Okay, and the same holds true with men that you might be supervising or whatever the case may be. If they go to work and they're told to do something, given some instructions, 9 times out of 10 they're gonna go on and do it, even if they disagree or don't like it. But when you start talking about just free leadership and participation, now everybody got an opinion and they will take a different route on the instructions. Simply, then the difference is on the job, they control your paycheck. If that paycheck is not there, then will they follow?
Right.
That's the question. Because see, here's the thing, and I said before, how you do anything is how you do everything. So if I'm going to be cooperative and I'm going to be a follower, if I'm going to be humble and have some integrity about myself and my work. It should be at work, it should be at home, it should be everywhere. And at the same time, if you don't want to fall in line with that, as Walker said, you get out of your boundaries, overstep your boundaries, then what do you do? What do I need to do?
It starts with communication first.
Well, you try that.
And then after that, you just have to go to the next step. The next step is either let it go or move on, or continue to fight that battle.
So you got to have something to stand on.
Yeah, you have to have something to stand on 10 toes about. Your morals and beliefs have to come first before anything, because there's times your morals and beliefs will be just yours.
Yeah, tell me about it.
So you have to stand on what you truly believe in, and there's times you have to move on that. And there's times people ain't gonna like it, but it may be the betterment of that household or that situation.
Thank you, because you took us right back to where we began 2 weeks ago with belief and having a foundation to stand on. So do you have the quavers and the guts to stand on your belief? First of all, do you have a belief, a foundation, a doctrine?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's where it starts.
Because if you don't have it, whichever way the wind blows, and the tail will be wagging the dog.
Well, you know what they say, Mr. Ware, many are called, but only few are chosen. Sometimes, especially on the job, a person has to know their role. Sometimes you get too many Indians and not enough chiefs, or too many chiefs and not enough Indians, if you will. And sometimes we have to respect the process, meaning we can't expect to gain the world overnight. Sometimes you have to put the work in to get to the ultimate destination. And as far as treatment of different genders, I think it can be related to the change of societal norms. Like back in the day, like he was saying, it's expected that you hold the door for someone, or you say hello to someone you may not even know. But nowadays, we live in a society where people are forgetting about that true commandment, as we talked about earlier, loving your neighbor as you love thyself, or as in school, they taught us the golden rule: love each other as you would love thyself. And so we're getting away from some of the biblical teaching. And I think that's having an impact on the children, on marriages, and even on the job, and even in some schools where they're completely taking, church out of school,
I got you. Brother Dwight, are you a Mason? Dwight, Shank. Are you a Mason? Okay. Brother Dwight.
I lost it.
Yeah, are you a Mason? Okay. The reason I was asking is people tend to listen to you. Well, number one, people don't listen. They want to hear while you're talking. They're thinking about what they want to say most of the time. Okay, and Jason took us back to belief and having something to stand on. If you have a foundation that you're going to stand on, how well do you think that's received out in the world today? How well is your foundation, your beliefs? If you lock into your beliefs, how well will you be received in today's
It depends on
society?
if they agree with your belief or disagree. I mean, you can get some true venom if they disagree with what you're saying, you know. But that goes back to communication too. Um, I had a fella that told me he quit watching football because, you know, people were kneeling for the national anthem, and he said that he didn't think that they had that wasn't the right place for it. And I told him, I said, well, this was a white man. I said, I can understand exactly what you're saying, you know, and but I disagree. And this was somebody when I was selling cars. He was a customer of mine, and it could have blew the sale, but I'd had about as much as I could take. And I told him, I said, you know, minorities in this country have not received anything that was just given to them because they uh, were nice. There was always some civil disobedience that was involved, or something, some kind of protest that caused them to receive the benefits that they eventually got. And he thought for a second, and he said, "You know something? I never thought about it that way." So I think communication is key. I don't think everybody's going to agree with what you're saying, but if you are standing on principle and you can communicate your view, I think you at least have a chance of shedding some light.
Interesting. You said standing on principle. I like that word. I like to say principles don't lie. So where do you get your principles from?
Well, your belief should be strong enough where it doesn't matter what anyone says, is you stand, on your belief. So, and principles should be, um, you should get your principles from the Bible.
There you
So
go.
if your principles are from the Bible, one thing Jesus told us is the world resisted me, so they're going to resist you. So if you're following like this, like they said, that this generation is so far gone, like learning everything from the internet and don't treat females right, and a female think some plastic in her pants is better than a man. She thinks she can jump. So when you come out with those principles, Bible based, you got Jesus's word, you got everything. You're going to get some type of pushback because people are going to be like, well, this is how I was supposed to do it, and but I'm like, well, this is the way it's supposed to be,
Okay. Okay.
and you're not going.
Dwight, are you a Mason?
Yes, sir.
How long have you been a Mason?
A decade.
Okay. Have you seen in the lodge setting a lot of, as he just said, pushback from the leaders, directives, and so forth?
Oh, yes, sir. I mean, I love how you expounded upon it beyond the male and female relationship. It happens in every scenario, from parents and children. It like you said, it's a mindset.
Yeah.
It really starts with who are you when no one else is around. What's your decision making tree? How do you figure out how to address issues? Um, so yes, it's always there. Like they say, heavy is the hat, or heavy is the head that wears the hat. To
Yeah.
be a leader, in hindsight, I would say, from my experience, certain people are blessed to be born leaders, but leaders are made like you're doing now. This is a leadership class. For all intents and purposes, it's giving us some tools, and how do you giving you some tools, some scenarios that in the future you may be able to use to make better decisions. But yeah, it takes other men to pour into you to
Right.
help you become or potentially become the man that you have the ability to be.
Okay. Well, that's the whole idea, is to pour into each other so that we become what we were put here to be. You know, in Jeremiah 29:11, the word says, I have a plan for you with a hope and a future. So we're born ignorant, okay? And the world keeps taking whatever little smarts we get and squashing them because they want us to respond to the world, the devil, and our flesh want us to respond to whichever way the wind blows, whatever the fad is nowadays. Okay, that's where we go. But at the same time, we have to have something to stand on. Brother Thomas, I know you listening and you got 15 million things to say.
I agree with all my brothers. They all spoke well. I was taking notes. What Brother Dwight spoke on, he pretty much wrapped everything up. Everybody did. I liked how, you put the question out there and all the brothers were taking breaks and just laying them out accordingly. I think it started off with Brother Walker, speaking on the beliefs. Then Brother Jason or Brother Thompson was talking about the principles. I know or I think it was Brother Melvin, you talk about principle and precept. So as I'm listening to everything that's getting spoken on in this whole, meeting this evening, everybody has different beliefs, as you mentioned. I think something in regards to leadership in this dynamic is for us as leaders to know what our beliefs are as an individual, to know where we're getting our principles from, make sure we have a solid foundation, stand on those things. And if we get challenged, make sure that we back it up by something, like you said. But like Brother Dwight said as well, if it's a one-on-one, if it's with your wife, it's with a colleague, or if it's just out and about in the field on your day-to-day task, just encountering somebody at the gas station, whatever the case may be, you walk in your godly self and you don't have to, flex, if you would, as we say, for the younger generation, but just provide the essence of yourself that's needed to get what needs to get done. Us as leaders, I think it's us implementing the best level of articulation for whatever our audience is at the time. Us all being fathers, all being men, we will speak to our child differently than we would speak to our wife, or speaking to the teacher at the school differently. We'll speak to the banker at the bank. So as we grow, we learn from one another. We learn from our scenarios. We learn from our encounters, and we just critique and we pivot accordingly. Like the trestle board. Nothing is set in stone. Nothing is definite. We just keep on going, and like you said, put in that work. And as we put in that work, our decision-making skills, if we're moving to do so, will be better as we proceed and take this journey in life.
Well, now you said nothing is definite.
When I say nothing is definite, I mean like nothing is set in stone. Like things can change.
Principles don't change.
I wasn't talking about principles.
He coming for you.
Principles don't change.
I wasn't talking about principles.
And
I mean, like,
continue. Hold on a minute. Principles don't change, and principles will get your butt whipped. Okay? Because your wife, the first thing she gonna say is, "Well, I feel," okay, and then your coworkers and those of you that are in the Masonic order, "Well, I think we should do so and so." But now you were given an edict or a revelation and instructions on how to do something, okay? And Janelle Walker said you follow the process. But here I am, I don't want to follow the process. I think we should do this or do that. So
Well,
where do
then
you go from there?
then you educate them on your principles. So if someone says, well, why don't we murder? You tell them like, here's the 10 Commandments. Why don't we steal? This is our principles that um me and Ware follow. If you don't want
If they told me that walk out, ask them how much you want me to put on your books and how often. I ain't going. You go ahead, brother. But how far will $10 a month get you? That's about all I'm gonna tell you. Okay.
but
Go
I
murder
mean,
somebody.
but I would say educate them. Hey, look, I understand that you got some revelation, or you think you graduated, Harvard overnight, or whatever you dreamed about. Look, these are the principles that we follow from this certain book. So if we're following Bible based principles, hey, this is where we get our information from. So we're not just coming shooting blanks and telling you to follow us because it's the way to be. We're following the Bible, and by us following the Bible, this is where we get our principles from. So you can get educated off of these principles and try to join with us, or like I said, you cross the boundary, will have to move around or let you go, and that's why people get fired all the time. That's why there's layoffs, because some people just, hey man, I went to the job and they fired me, and I've been there for 3 years. But did you tell everybody else that you've been coming late for 2 hours every 3 years,
Right,
or you went 2 days out of the week? It's like you
right.
called off every 2 days to watch football, and you ain't got your lights paid. There's always some type of little there's more to the story.
I had a guy that was one of my agents, insurance agents, uh, years ago. Top notch salesman. He could turn in some business, but he would not follow my procedures. See, here's the thing. When I got ready to set up my insurance agency, I sat down and I wrote out my operating procedure. I covered everything, including sexual harassment. And I was the only one in the company. Okay. But I put it there so that as I brought people in, I didn't have to fly by the seat of my pants because they just fell in the slots. That's a principle that I came to realize. Prepare the place and then the people will come. Well, this guy came and he was a good salesman, but he wouldn't follow my procedures and I fired him. Well, I'm a broker. The insurance company asked me, did I have a problem with them hiring him directly? I said, no problem. Just, I don't want any override. I don't want to have anything to do with you and him. 6 months later, they called me looking for the guy. Did I know where he was? He had beat them out of $150,000
Oh wow.
with bad deals.
Wow.
So now, again, what are you standing on? And how well does your principles, your beliefs, your doctrine serve you? Brother Curtis? Okay, I guess Maxon and Curtis don't want to talk. But your beliefs should serve you. Y'all think, is that correct?
I agree.
I agree.
Well, I think it's important, as the word tells us, not to conform to the ways of the world. And we are to be led by the spirit and not the flesh, because the two can't coincide together. So either you're going to live through the spirit or you're going to allow your flesh to lead you. But be that as it may, we all fall short. So you can be the most spiritual person, but sometimes you could be overtaken by your flesh. And that's the great thing about Christ, is that we can have repentance, we can have redemption, so that even in the cases where we may have fallen short, we can become a stronger person and learn from those situations.
I love the way you say we can.
Well, that's the truth.
Yeah, we can. Provided we what?
You have to place that faith into action, because faith without works is dead. So we can have the blueprint of the word and we can have belief, but if we don't execute that belief, then it's frivolous. And in other words, I can believe that I can lose weight, but unless I get on the treadmill or start cutting down my meals, then chances are I'm not going to lose any weight. So it doesn't take away the fact that anything is possible. Like in Luke 137, with God, nothing is impossible, but we have to exercise the pre-existing truths.
What comes before the exercise?
The fact of admitting that a change is needed to be made.
Okay, what comes after that?
Exercising that principle.
I'm trying to get you to the D word, because anytime we start standing on principles, beliefs, and so forth, we gotta be firmly rooted in the D word.
You're
Are you
talking
saying
about
dedication or devotion?
No, what you say, Melvin?
you're talking about a decision.
There you go. Can you make a decision and you stick to the decision in spite of the pushback that comes with that decision?
To decide is to cut off from any other options.
You got to be a man to do that.
Yes, you do.
You got to be a real man to do that. In the large system, you got to be a man. In home, you got to do that. On your job, if they ask you to do something unethical, you got to be able to make a decision and then stand on your decision.
Yeah, but I think a lot of times we as men who aren't programmed like that normally try to make the decision when it's already gotten worse. You know, there's a lot of times when you have problems in your home or at your job or whatever, you deal with it, knowing that you should have taken care of it right then, you know, like in your head, should you know that that's wrong, or
yes,
like this needs to be changed. But what happens is you wait till it gets all the way down to the point where there's no point of return.
Yeah, you're right.
Then you want to make that decision.
I agree. My pastor called that going along to get along.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
and it never works out right when you wait till the end of the point.
On your job, you might be talking about something that's unethical, or you might be given a directive that's unethical, illegal, or whatever the case may be. But you go along to get along, okay? Don't want to create any ruffles in your home. The same thing. Somebody want to do something, the kids want something, a wife, whatever. But instead of arguing, you just go along with it. And therein lies the problem with our life structure. Because everything in our circle of influence becomes rocky because we did not do the do word and stood steadfast.
It's not easy either, but at the same return, you know, it's just like when I quit smoking.
Why would you do that? Don't nobody like a quitter.
So the thing was, I tried.
Now I know you're a quitter.
I tried and I tried and I tried. You know, when I was in the military, you know, I smoked the BDs because I didn't want to smoke the cigarettes. you know, and the
You
thing
smoke
was
what?
beaties, those, it was like the leaves rolled up from Saudi.
Okay. I don't know nothing
They're
about
really
that.
strong, you know, so it's almost like you're smoking some weed, but that's what they were called, beaties.
Okay.
But the thing was, you know, it took all the way down till I thought I was having a heart attack to quit smoking. And so I had to, when I wanted to quit, you know, I made excuses to keep smoking. You know,
Speaking
so
of
I stressed
smoking,
out about,
you see Walker blowing his weed smoking to the camera.
well,
I'm,
hopefully he
I'm
won't
over
have
here
to
like
go
this.
through what I went through.
I'm
And
I'm
to see
shaking over
that
here, Jason.
these,
I'm like this.
you know, so do what I'm saying is, we as men, we wait all the way till it gets to the point where we're having the heart attack before we make the change.
Good or bad?
And that's a bad thing. Because you knew 3 years ago that this may happen, but you didn't want to stop, knowing that it was wrong.
Why don't we have the Quavos and the guts to stop it?
Because the principles that we have are easier to, well, years back, my grandmother told me this: it's easy to let go of something easy.
Okay.
That girl getting on your last nerve, you can get rid of her quick. You can get rid of that one quick. But if you have someone who is meeting you eye to eye and supports you with everything, and you know that I just don't like her like that, but she's a good woman, it's hard to let her go. It's hard to let it go because that woman's giving you exactly what you want, except for it's a possibility, you know, she big as a house.
Okay, now wait a minute. You went from smoking to a woman.
I'm talking
I
about
can
in
see the
life.
woman here.
This is the circle.
I can see the woman here, but the smoking is different.
But
I don't
I'm making,
understand the
see,
correlation.
the smoke is different because you smoke. That's the difference.
I'm over here like, tell him, Greg. Tell him.
So shit, I'm hitting home right now. I'm hitting home. But the point I'm really trying to make is this: it's easier to let something go at the moment because you don't want to have that discussion. I don't believe in arguing. I believe in having a conversation. When the arguing comes, that's when I have to shut down and say, hey, why don't you chill out for a while? We're going to come back to this. You know, I'm going to let you think about what you need to say because we ain't finna yell and argue. No, we're not going to do that.
Okay.
You stand on principles.
Okay.
If you're not an arguer, go ahead, brother.
You sure? You finished?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. You know, I wanted to go to the scripture when it says a little wine is all right for the ailment, but the drunkard shall not inherit the kingdom of God. So, in other words, we may have some things that are seen as pleasure, but when it gets to the point where we're in that state of a drunkard who is unable to be on their P's and Q's or defend their kingdom, then that's when it's an issue.
Well, you're not going to be able to defend anything if you don't maintain a sober mind.
Right, and that's what I was going to get to. Be sober and vigilant, for your adversary, the devil, roams like a lion, seeking whom he may devour. So it's a difference between something that's done in moderation and something that's going to allow us to be a prey for the enemy.
Let me put out a disclaimer here, okay? I really enjoyed this conversation tonight. And I want to let you brothers know, if y'all continue to get on this call week after week after week, there's going to be some adjustments made. Not in the call, but in us. So you got to be ready because everything you put in comes out. So look for some things to start coming out and people to react to what is coming out of you, either said or action. Now, I pray that it's peaceful, it brings you peace, and it brings you calmness and aids you in elevating yourself. Because anytime a man is sure, let me say this, the shakers and movers, the ones that really get things accomplished and that really excel, in anything. They gotta be committed. They gotta make a decision. Those of you that have played sports, you know what I'm talking about. You don't go out on the field or on the court talking about, I'm a try. This is who I am. This is what I'm gonna do. And if you falter, you go back and regroup and come back again. You tried and you will not be denied. I love the Oriental movies because if those of y'all ever watch wrestling,
Yeah, I'm a big wrestling fan.
you remember Hulk Hogan?
Of
course.
Then they'd be beating into a pulp, right? And then all of a sudden, it seems like he raises up and he gets regrouped. He regroups. And then
Right.
he comes out and kill everybody or knock them out.
Right.
Or you watching the Oriental movies, the karate movies, and they're getting beat, but then they back up and they regroup, and now they're ready to fight again. But it's a mindset. And you got to be willing to get your butt whipped because some people in our lives are not going to like this stuff. They're not going to like what comes out. When you become decisive and you stand steadfast on principles and precepts. But is it better for the overall group, the greater good?
Absolutely.
Now, that's what I think we should make decisions on. What's best for the greater good? And what's the first objection you get? I know it's the one I get all the time. I don't like the way you said it. I feel you could say it better. And I had an old, huh?
You could say it nicer.
Yeah, I had an old preacher tell me one time. He said his wife told him that, and he told her, "Damn how I said, is it true?" Now I'm gonna tell you, my wife don't like that phrase. She don't like that. The other one was, eat the meat, throw away the bone. If you tell me something and I don't like the way you said it, I'm still going to evaluate what you said. If it's pertinent, I accept it. If it's pertinent, I accept it. And the tone with which you said it, I'm going to ignore it. I'll come back and tell you, hey man, thank you. What you told me was good. It helped me. Because I'm listening to your words, to your advice. I'm not concerned with your tone. Now, am I different?
A little bit.
Yeah, because a lot of men nowadays, they want you to talk to them nicely.
Yeah.
Gently.
Be calling them an asshole nicely, and it's okay.
So, anyway, anything else, Brother Melvin, you got anything to say about tonight's conversation or what have you?
Who did you call on?
You?
Oh, I think the conversation was absolutely wonderful. Brought up some very, very good points and made me think.
Okay. Brother Thompson?
Well, I enjoyed it. I really did enjoy it. This is my first time on the meeting, and I really enjoyed it. It kind of opened that Pandora box that I need to clean out.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah.
We just got to stop you from being a quitter.
Yeah. To quit smoking.
Wait, I quit smoking
Start
too,
back
man.
smoking cigarettes so I can feel like I didn't quit.
Hey,
Hey, Jason, don't let him get you, man. You
No,
doing
he ain't gonna
good.
never
Don't
get me like that. But I really did enjoy it. should a lot of the viewpoints that were said did kind of hit home from my past, and that's where like should a lot of my principles came from
Okay.
my past. So
Yes.
kind of hit home and helped me to think about some things as well, because like those that are married or have women in their lives and stuff, they need to concentrate on these things a little bit more often because those make or break your relationship at times.
Absolutely. Brother Curtis,
Yeah.
you got it. You've been eavesdropping, ear hustling. You got anything to say?
No, I was on my motorcycle. I apologize, Greg. I was listening while riding, but no, I enjoyed the conversation. Like Jay said, I enjoyed it because like the principles part and where your principle, like you say, Grant, your principle is everything. It's how you stand for how you stand, what you stand for is what you'll fall for. So if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for nothing.
Now they say if you don't stand for something, you fall for anything.
Yeah, that's what I more mean. I apologize.
I got you. Brother Matson, what you talking about?
Man, I agree. I love all the viewpoints that everybody had. All the different point of views, perspectives, and principles, and like you say, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if you don't know how to do the right thing, if you don't know how to stand up for yourself or your principles, then like Brother Curtis was saying, then you'll fall for anything. And that'll happen at home, at work, in your relationship. That'll happen on all fronts. And so you just gotta really, like you say, be a man and stand up, do the right thing, and have respect and knowledge.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Because
sir. Yes, sir. There are men and there are males.
yes, sir. And
Okay.
it's more of a knowledge over ignorance type of thing. Like John was saying, he's not gonna tell nobody to do something that he hadn't done, wouldn't do, or not capable of doing.
Right.
You
Okay.
gotta be knowledgeable in whatever you're going into, in whatever conversation or a leadership role that you participating in. You have to have knowledge in that area, in that field, so that you're able to communicate effectively. Because it's one thing to, people say communication is key, but really comprehension is key. So
Ha!
you can talk all day long, but if you're not saying something in a way that the person is able to receive it, then you're really wasting your time. So
Amen.
we
Amen.
waste our
Brother
time.
Walker, what you got to say?
Huh?
I was talking to Walker. Any final words, John Walker?
Everything hit on point, especially with the leadership. But like, principles is definitely one of the main foundations, because that way you can use that to anybody that comes at you and say, hey, I want you to do this. It's not going against your principles and your beliefs, because you can be a leader, but there's always someone that has more power or influence over you, and they might try to convince you to do something that goes against your beliefs and principles. That's why I would say the great foundation would be like to stand on the Bible is a great principle, because that's what Jesus told us to do. So
Okay.
other than that, the conversation was great.
Okay. Brother Walker, G. Walker.
I enjoyed the conversation. I think it's all about maintaining your integrity and your core values, not letting anybody steer you away from what you hold to be true. And I feel like even Michael Jordan has to sit on the bench sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
But everybody plays a key role to the overall success of the team.
Excellent. I like that core value. That's something that we don't hear a lot about. Brother Dwight, what degree are you?
Third degree, sir.
All right. Well, we're gonna give you the last say so.
Well, thanks again for letting me be a part of the Wednesday wisdom session. My takeaway for tonight, something that sticks out to me is making sure you're clear and then decisive with your decision. So that's something that resonated with me, something that I'll be reviewing and keep an eye on that in my daily journey. So thanks again and pleasure meeting everyone.
Outstanding. We'll probably have another one next week. I try and make it last an hour. Tonight we went an hour and 20 minutes. But if you guys get on time, we're gonna try and keep it just to an hour. The whole idea behind this is getting different viewpoints and so forth to solidify, as G. Walker said, our core values, and know that we are not standing alone, because the world, our flesh, and the devil are always trying to get us to move in the way they want us to move. So we have to stand steadfast on our core values. And our core values, according to John Walker, should be tied to the Holy Bible, and G. Walker too. The Walker brothers are just Bible intensive.
Hey, well, John, and John's in the Bible, so
So with that in mind, we're gonna bid adieu, and hey, I appreciate it. This is a recording. This is the third one. I have not published any of them yet, but probably after the next one, I'm gonna start putting them on YouTube. So nobody said anything real bad this time. Nobody said anything incriminating. Those of you that are married, well, just buy your boxing gloves, or tell her to smile while she beats you. So, brothers, I'll talk to you all later. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.